American blues equals heavy metal. I think Geezer Butler's English teacher equals heavy metal. American blues equals heavy metal. I think Geezer Butler's English teacher equals heavy metal. I think American blues equals heavy metal. American blues equals heavy metal. And by that we mean why are you interested in the project? I'm interested in the project because I have a background in popular music, sociology, cultural studies, and I first learned about the project in 2007 from one of the people who was all involved in setting it up. As cultural festivals and events development coordinator for the Black Country. She was one of the principal people who encouraged the Black Country Arts Partnership to become involved in the project alongside Capsule and various other funding bodies. So I've always known about it since it was developed, and it appealed to me as a study of the use of music in society and why people use music and how people use music and how it affects them and how it works and helps them construct their identity and elements of their culture and just influences their agency and action. So that's why I'm interested in it. I was a volunteer on the project during the first open days, and earlier this year my role was formalised to that of project intern following a interview, sort of a formal application process, and around that time I was able to apply to a studentship at Birmingham City University. Was announced in the Birmingham Centre for Cultural Media and Cultural Research, and because I'd been interested in popular music heritage practice and popular music history, the way that popular music history works, through the Home of Metal thing, I developed some ideas around that, and I found it very easy to write a proposal. Not easy actually, it wasn't easy, but I wrote a proposal for the studentship application. I submitted that, and it was successful, and I was able to leave the job that I'd been doing for some time and become a full-time student at the age of 38. Yeah, I was 38. I started the weekend after my 38th birthday. So the next question is, how did you get into metal? Well, I didn't get into metal, really. A lot of the people that are interviewed for Home of Metal got into metal as, 13, 14, 15-year-old music fans through their brother, through their father, through their friend's brother, whatever. I had the opposite experience in that I didn't like heavy metal when I was that age. I was into a different sort of set of bands. And when my friends and I started to become aware of music and music became more important to us, a group of lads I was hanging out with, they all started liking heavy metal and I didn't. I would say that in my sort of core group of friends that I went through comprehensive school, Ken McCormick, Richard and Ken both had older brothers. Richard and Ken both liked heavy metal. Roderick was into Queen and Jason wasn't into much really. But through Richard and Ken, the sort of the friendship group kind of expanded a bit and encompassed some more of their friends, people who I'd already known, but the people that were getting into metal. So that was two elder brothers, and they were both heavily into heavy metal. There was another lad, Richard's brother, can't remember Richard's brother's name, but he was very friendly with somebody whose elder brother, worked for a company called Music for Nations, and Music for Nations had Venom. Those kind of bands, around 13, 14, those are the kind of bands that I was arguing with my friends, Ken and particularly Richard and Mark Stelling, about the merits of this metal music. We used to do a lot of this arguing during role-playing game sessions. We used to play Dungeons and Dragons, and we would listen to music whilst we were doing it, and my music would never get played, it was always their music. And so I absorbed a lot of it, and also through their magazines as well, I got a really good... I understood how the bands fit together. You know, I knew who Zeppelin and Sabbath were, how they were early on, Deep Purple, and leading up to, you know, the more recent bands. Iron Maiden were massive at the time, particularly for Richard. Richard was a big Iron Maiden fan. So they'd buy the clothes, the t-shirts, the records, and I'd still hang around with them. And I still know Ken very well. Proud to be pleased that he's still a friend. So the next question that we ask people is to tell us about your music life, and that encompasses records, gigs, radio, magazines, relationships to music, well, relationships, TV, internet, clothes, pubs, clubs, festivals, other interests then and now, and it's a good opportunity to discuss the artefact. The artefact that I've got from the time is a studded wristband. It's 2 rows of studs on a piece of black leather with a buckle on it, which you can wrap around your wrist. And I bought this from a stall in Basingstoke Market, Lower Market, near the bus station. It's not there anymore. Well, the stall isn't there, the marketplace isn't there. And I don't know how much it would have cost, probably £1.50, £2 or so. I can't remember when I bought it, but it would have been around that time, 1985, 1986, 1987 sort of time, when my friends were buying this kind of thing. I bought it to fit in, really, just to be one of the gang. I don't remember the day that I bought it. I don't remember wearing it ever. But I've still got it, and taken some photos of it for the Home of Metal website. So that's my studded wristband. To continue talking about how I absorbed metal, it was always in the company of friends, because I would never listen to it on my own, because I wouldn't want to listen to it on my own. We started a band in 1986 when we were 14, and metal was a big part of that. We played heavy metal songs, we played Iron Maiden covers, played an Iron Maiden cover, and a couple of other of the more sort of glammy American bands. I can't remember their names, but one of the tracks was called Shake Me. And obviously those kind of glammy bands that were coming to the fore at the time were different to your classic heavy metal of Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Black Sabbath. Ken McCormick, the first gig he ever went to was Black Sabbath. He turned up at school one Monday morning and said, "Yeah, guess what I did last night?" And he been into London with his brother to attend the Hammersmith Odeon, to attend a Black Sabbath gig at the Hammersmith Odeon, and it was then that he told me the story of Tony Iommi's Fingertips. So I've always known about Tony Iommi's Fingertips ever since I was sort of 14 or so. When I was hanging out with those guys, we used to do things like go into London to go to the British Music Fair to play guitars and hang out in London, hang out around Denmark Street, drooling over guitars and effects pedals, and go to the British Music Fair. They would go to particularly Richard was a big record buyer. We'd go to Shades Records, and they'd be drooling. I'd be wanting to get to another record shop, frankly. I remember it being very well, it was an independent record shop, which meant people could smoke in there. It was pretty tatty. Off a side street off Tottenham Court Road, as I remember, or possibly Oxford Street, around that area. I only went a couple of times, to be honest. I was more interested in going to Kensington Market, which is a bit more gothy. Felt it didn't. I think two main reasons. One, I just thought it looked ridiculous, and I thought the music didn't have the same kind of emotion as was present in the more understated and fragile music, poetic music that I was listening to. So I think I've covered it now. Well, of course now it's different, since being involved with Home of Metal and also a band called Einstellung, who are heavily influenced by by Black Sabbath. It was a gradual drip of listening to more and more Black Sabbath. I do remember buying a Black Sabbath compilation album over 10 years ago and giving it a couple of spins, but never being particularly grabbed by it. But it's been a drip gradual effect over the last 2 years or so of getting more and more into Black Sabbath, and now I am heavily into Black Sabbath. And that early period, I've bought most of the albums from that early period. There's only one album that I'm missing, I think, which is Sabotage, and I'm kind of trying to get into them gradually, album by album, as would be the way that it was done in the early days. And yeah, I would have loved to have seen them. At the time in the early 70s. So next question we ask everyone is, what part metal has played in your life? I suppose now it's my job, kind of. I'm a research student. I'm working on this project, conducting oral history interviews like this one, and not transcribing them, but summarising them, and taking photos of people's art, visiting people in their homes and taking photos of artefacts and uploading them to the Home of Metal website. I'm writing blog posts for the Home of Metal website, try and do one of those a week, and my reflections on the research process are going to form a PhD, which is my life, which is shaping my life and playing a massive part in my life. So, and also the other thing, one of the strange things about this whole process is I'm speaking to you now from Handsworth, and about 15 or 20 minutes walk away is Lodge Road, Aston, where Ozzy Osbourne grew up. Just a little bit further away from that is 88 Victoria Road, Aston, where Geezer Butler grew up. And around the corner from that is the site of 67 Park Lane, Aston, where Tony Iommi's family ran a shop. So I live in the same area as the band that I study. So I've, since starting this project, I've taken the opportunity to absorb the environment by walking through it on a regular basis and just soaking it up, because I literally am walking in the footsteps of this band that produced this amazing global phenomena of heavy metal. Well, had a hand in producing the global phenomena of heavy metal. Are credited with producing it, so that kind of means the way that these things work, it kind of means that they did, because everybody says that they did, but it's always more complicated than that, really. No one band can be said to have done that, or one performer. So yeah, I'm thinking about it a lot, absorbing more and more Black Sabbath material, thinking about it a lot, and thinking about where it might lead me afterwards. I don't know. Why do you think that the region has produced heavy metal music, and why has it had such an enduring global appeal? Well, this is a very interesting part of the process, part of the heavy metal, part of the Home of Metal heritage presentation is to construct a narrative around and present and construct a narrative around the story that we're trying to tell. And I think that there is a expectation, a sort of a received wisdom about heavy industry equals heavy metal, working class conditions, poverty equals desire to escape poverty equals new forms of music, and I think it's very much more complicated than that. When people look very closely at the backgrounds of the bands and things, you'll find that it ain't, well, it's just not that simple. I don't think. When people tell me that Black Sabbath sound like a factory, I don't hear it. When I piece bits of my research together and realise that it was quite a cynical, commercial, calculated move to exploit and adopt elements of occult literature and that kind of thing. I see more mileage in that. I do agree with the desire to escape the poverty, and luck as well. You know, I keep finding out about these bands who never quite made it, and you know, they are different. Sabbath were different, but yeah, that is a more. It's a more. I would give a more complicated answer than many of the other people who I speak to, who simply say they take a little bit of time to think about it, but they do just generally say the received wisdom about heavy industry equals heavy metal. I think Geezer Butler's English teacher equals heavy metal. I think American blues equals heavy metal. I also think that, I mean, when you go on to why has it got an enduring global appeal, I do think there is something that they discovered about loud power chords that fulfills a psychological need within the human being. You know, they've got that sound is a certain sound that has a universal appeal for youth, for young people. But as we're seeing, you know, I mean, I got into it when I was 37, 36, 37. So it's not something that the teenage brain is attuned to. But I do remember sort of some of the personalities of the people who liked heavy metal as younger people. Yeah, there are people who do like metal and people who don't like metal, and elements of their personality might have an impact on their ability to engage with that presentation of music, which kind of goes back to what I was discussing earlier about the kind of bands that I was into and why I was into them. But clearly there is something that speaks to young people in the music and in the attitude and in the lyrical themes and in the power of the musical structures and the effect of the musical structures. So I think it's had an enduring global appeal because it works, and as part of a music industry which is heavily reliant on marketing. It's theatre as well, that's another, you know, the theatre is an enduring global phenomena, and heavy metal is very theatrical. So maybe that is something which people don't consider, how false it is. How it's just ridiculously false. Look at Rob Halford. You know, I'd jump his bones. As quite is what is said in the heavy metal parking lot film. I wouldn't personally. That might come across in completely the wrong way. It's false. Very, very false. Staged. It's controlled as well. I think the marketing of Black Sabbath, particularly in America, the bits and bobs that I've seen from the time, it's no accident that they were getting associated with black magic and stuff. It worked very well. Okay, so for digging I'm sure certain people, well, that's kind of my theories on that kind of, although I do agree, you know, they run counter to some of the other thoughts on the presentation that we want to put forward. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us? I always try and ask people if there is anything else they would like to tell us, because they've given us their time so generously. And I would try and think of another story from my youth of my involvement with the guys and the heavy metal dudes that I grew up with. I'd like, because obviously it'd be good to interview them. Just the bands, I suppose, you know, we were in bands and we'd just obsess about the people that we saw in the magazines and stuff, and we'd pretend, you know, we wanted our band to be. We thought we could be, you know, we thought we could present some kind of stage show along the lines of what we saw on these videos and stuff. And the boundless enthusiasm of youth led us not to sort of question our ability to do this, and we looked bloody stupid, really, looking back on it. And I wonder what that sounds like. Thank you. Thanks, Rob. That's okay. Anytime.
Hello? 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 This is called Intern Me Too. It's about working as an intern for somebody who bullies you, marginalises you, ridicules you, questions your sexuality, and then when the project's finished and they're on the verge of getting another fat fucking cheque from public funds, they tell you they have no time to see you because they are too busy. Is anyone going to the Supersonic Festival this year? There is no comparison. To purity, accuracy and love. There is no comparison for purity, accuracy and love. Well, that's 3 minutes, that'll do. Should do the trick.